Hey, welcome to Rhino's Garage. So I picked up this 2004 Chevy Trailblazer super cheap recently. It was just sitting in this guy's yard for like a year, almost two, and he just wanted it gone, so I got a really good deal on it. You can see though, it looks like a rig that's been parked outside a while. It needs a little work to get roadworthy. Well, I mean, it's technically drivable now. I drove it like a half hour home when I bought it. And if you remember from a recent garage build out video, I even used it to haul a trailer around a little bit. And it actually runs really strong. But it needs a few things dealt with before I'm going to send my little girl off in it. Dads with daughters, you get it. Today, though, we'll do a walk around, give it a look, and then we're going to focus on some issues we've got going on inside with the instrument cluster, a noisy blender motor actuator thingy, and some really creative wiring that someone did for the radio. Honestly, it's stellar. Anyway, enough chit chat. Let's get to it. We just had it detailed inside, and I'm sure if you're looking at this right now, you can look down, you can see firsthand, there's some questions as to why in the world would you get it professionally detailed? Well, as bad as the outside looks, the inside was worse. Need a shot of penicillin or something when you got in and out of it. So they cleaned it up pretty nice, probably as good as it can be cleaned up. It's an old truck. It was cheap. It's a first car. And, you know, first cars are supposed to suck, right? That's kind of the deal. But otherwise, interior is decent. The problem we have right now is the gauge don't work. Some of the gauges don't work. The accessory gauges over here. So oil pressure, engine temp, fuel, and battery. The voltage is not working. A bunch of other lights are on. It appears, from what I can tell from my Googling, it's actually just a bad instrument panel. Like there's a couple of resistors or something on the back that just can't be, chips or something that are really not worth replacing. So finding a used one of those is probably the option. It also has a weird ticking sound when you start it. I believe it's just a blender door actuator for the HVAC. You can see the gauges here. Don't do anything. You hear that ticking, but we've got nothing for gauges. So it's right up, but ABS light, brake light, airbag light, battery light, no gear selector. So let's put it in gear here. It doesn't show anything. But tach works and the speedometer works. We got fan and air. Air's cold. It does not, however. So we're on defrost now. And it doesn't change. Well, it is changing up top. It just isn't killing it from here. We go to the bottom. No air up here. So lots of air here. Nothing come out the bottom. Still full blast out the AC vents. And then I gotta get up in the air and get underneath it and look at shock struts, brakes. I'm guessing, like this sat for a while, so I'm guessing it's gonna need brakes just because it's just been sitting for so long. You can see those rotors are pretty rusty. This sat for probably 2 years in the guy's yard. It was full of fire ants. It was a mess. We may or may not do, I've never actually painted a car, and I'd like to learn how. So I'm thinking, since this already looks terrible, what's the worst that could happen? Did I make it look terrible? So I might get some paint stuff and see if I can do a sort of a backyard paint job on this and see how it turns out. I've painted panels on a car. I've just never painted an entire car. Like I've done patchwork. So I don't know. Maybe it'll be a fun little project and something to put on the channel and see how it goes. You guys can make fun of me for my terrible painting. I'm more of a brute force kind of guy. Artistic stuff, that's just not my wheelhouse. I have other people in my family that do stuff for me that is artistic and pretty. For now, I just want to get this thing on the road. So some fun new things as we're starting to dig in here on the blender door. These ports here, that one, those two there, were all taped off with blue painter's tape. And I don't know why. Those are the vents for the floor heat, and so maybe because the blender door wasn't working, and maybe he was just blowing cold air in his feet, and he didn't like it, so he blocked them off. The other thing is, I don't know if you heard it, is that random chime. See? That's fun. I have to figure out what that is, but anyway, we're gonna get this off. A couple screws here. One there. A couple here for the sensor, or for the OBD2 plug. Some over there. We'll see what we got. That dinging's weird though. Alright, so of course, one thing I'm terrible at is guessing the sizes of bolts. They were 7mm, not 1/4 inch. There you go. This pops off. Well, good thing we got it detailed. Now there's crap falling out of this. There's a bunch of extra wires in here too. This is another thing I found. It's got an aftermarket radio in it, and I don't know what all this stuff is. Alright, so now a lot of already warm and fuzzies. Get this wire here, which is not a factory wire. I don't know what it goes to. But they ran it underneath through that hole, and then it was back up inside the trim here somewhere. But I mean, why don't I just run it under the plastic? It goes under the plastic, two under the plastic. We ran it out and back up. And why? So we have to take out 2 screws. Somebody has enough drive and enough intelligence to wire in whatever this is wired in for. So this isn't just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to get that panel off. Like, you know how to do this, but you didn't spend 30 seconds to Google how to do this. So now I gotta figure out where this wire goes, because I want to get it out of here. It's like in the footwell. And there's another one. Goes this way to Lord knows what. Decided it was best to just go ahead and take off the panels. So I took off the lower dash panel and kick plate and the door trim here. And these are those wires. So the one runs down through there, and then it's this wire here. And it runs all the way along. There's 2 of them. This is the other one that I was talking about that's just dangling up there by, you know, conveniently by the brake pedal for your foot to hit all the time. There is an aftermarket radio with an aftermarket backup camera. And I believe this is probably, one of them is power and the other one is the camera feed coming back to the radio. So I'm guessing this one is power, and it's attached up here somewhere into a, I can't feel the end of it yet, but somewhere up in the fuse panel for power. So that would make this one the camera feed, and it probably goes up here, makes a turn here, yep, there it is, and it goes into the dash. Just one of those things when you, that's not why I'm digging in here, you find these things when you dig into these old cars that people have tweaked, modified, jacked up, whatever. So I still got to get up here. Blender door is up here somewhere. I just keep kind of turning it on and following the sound. I don't know exactly where it is. I don't have a service manual for this. I probably got to get one if we're going to keep this truck. So I just turn it on and make it click, and then follow the noise, and it stops clicking, and then I took some stuff out of the way and keep looking. So good times. Sorry I couldn't get much on camera here. I need 2 hands for tools, and I don't have anybody else to film, so I had to get this apart, and then I'll show you where I did. So I took there it is. Took the LBD2 sensor off. It's just two little, again, same 7mm, yeah, 7mm screw head, and that just pulls through the hole. So you just kind of turn it sideways and it comes through. It's this right here. This bigger block here just has these little teeth on it, and then it has the little clip. And the teeth go through those holes, so you kind of slide it that way, and that little clip connects right here. So you just got to pry that clip up on this side with something, a little screwdriver. I use a pair of needle nose pliers, just pry this up, and then this just slides out nice and easy. And then this one has a little push pin, and you got to squeeze it together so it'll come through that hole. So it clips in here. So from this side, you squeeze it with a pair of needle nose pliers. That's why I had the pliers. And this just pops right out. So normally you'd now be able to take this completely out, but here we have this fun little wire. For now, I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna redo that wire, but I just don't want to dive into that right now. I'm trying to stay focused on what we're doing and not be so shiny object, but I'm a little curious where this goes. Trying to stay focused. That's just how you know, regardless, when you get to this blender door, you're gonna have to come up through here, and this stuff's gotta come off. So you can, that's how you get that off. You likely won't have to worry about this jankiness. Okay, so just digging around in here and poking around with a little flashlight and getting pictures from the phone, trying to figure out exactly where I should go. I probably could have just YouTubed or Googled this, but I think I figured it out. There's a couple of bolts under here for this metal panel, and the actuator is actually behind here. At least that's what it sounds like. So, not a big deal. A couple of bolts for this side, a couple of bolts for this side. We'll get this metal piece out of the way. They're a 10mm because, well, everything's a 10mm. Probably should have held that up there before I undid that last one. So, well, supposedly it's buried up in there somewhere, but I don't know. I'll have to get in here. I'll probably get in here with like a contortionist upside down and look up under there. Let's see what we've got, what we're working with here. I think that's it right there. Well, that ain't so bad. So there's a screw right there. And looks like one right up there. Let me turn the car real quick and see if I can pinpoint. That's the noise. Feels like it. I can feel it clicking in my hand. Yeah. I wonder, it's worth taking that out. It looks like another 10mm. Perfect. There's one. Now, let's see, the other one is way up there. Too much. Okay. Going to a ratchet. Yeah, first world problems, right? You gotta go old school. Can't get your fancy power tools in there. Let's get on there and do it by hand. Turn it loose, yep. This will be fun getting back in, I'm sure. Okay, two are out. There's a third somewhere because it's not moving. All right, so probably pull that screw out, drop that wiring harness. So that one doesn't want to come out. It's just loose enough that on the ratchet, the ratchet going back the other way, it's got enough resistance that it turns the screw back. So when you ratchet back and forth, the screw just goes right and left and right and left the whole time. But it's not loose enough to do it by hand. So this is where, like, if you have one of those little thumb ratchets, you click on here, it's got some leverage on it. This would be a good spot for that. I don't have one. It's one of those tools that I thought for, like, just in cases like this. Man, I wish I had one of those ratchets. And then I go on to like Amazon or Harbor Freight or whatever, and I see them and I go, I'm done now though. I don't need one. So I don't buy it. And then 2 years later, I run into a situation where I need it again. There we go. And I think, I'm gonna buy one of those. But I don't have it right now. I get it figured out, and then I buy one. So, I don't know. I get it figured out. So maybe I'm right. I don't really need one. But it would have been handy. All right. Let's see here. So, that's out of the way. There's a screw on the top, which I'm desperately hoping is not part of the removal process, because that looks like a bear. Okay, so fun fact, here's the plug for that. So it shouldn't be running, and yet it's still ticking. Now I think it's back here. So that ain't all bad, because I couldn't get it out anyway. So I'll put those screws back in before I forget. Plug that back in. And we'll see if we can get that air tube out of there and look underneath that. Maybe it's under there. So a little tip, this isn't always true. But if you're like me and you forget which screws go where, and you just got a pile of stuff down here and you're really disorganized and you try to put the wrong screw in, you're like, that doesn't seem right. Remember that these different parts, these different units like this are made by a supplier. They're not made necessarily directly by General Motors or Ford or Chrysler or whatever. They're made by some supplier company that makes HVAC systems for GM. Like the body pieces use all the same kind of screws. They're all very similar. Now I have them all in a pile somewhere else, not in here, so I got these confused. But they're all black. They're all the same head size. I was trying to put that screw in there and wondering why it wasn't working. I look around, and there's kind of a brass or gold-colored screw. There's your gold-colored screw. So this whole unit is made by the same company. Together, they make them on a line, and they pop out, and they ship them in boxes, and they ship them to wherever they assemble these. So I saw that screw laying on the floor, and I'm like, I wonder if that's a screw. And sure enough, it goes right in, lickety split. So just a little tip, if you start to get confused about what screws you have, same screws go in same places with other same screws. So that can help. Now, if they're all the same, and they're all the same color, and the same head size, but different threads or different lengths, that's obviously not going to help. But sometimes that can be the tiebreaker between different kinds of screws. I wonder if it's you. Are you the problem child? Let's turn back on and see. Get my hand in there. That's fun. No, it feels like it. Whoa. All right, so I had to take that tube out. That tube just pops out. There's a clip right there. Just pops in that hole. Just a little push pin. I popped it out, and that whole long tube here just comes out. So that's what I thought. Again, I felt this one and thought, yep, that's the one. So I unplugged that one. Nope, still ticked. And then as I'm peeking, I'm upside down now. Like I'm laying on my back underneath the dashboard. And as I'm peeking around here, well, I'll be darned. There's another one. As my dad used to say, I'll be a monkey's uncle. I don't really know what that means. He said it a lot, and usually when he was surprised by something. So I suppose if I found out I was a monkey's uncle, I'd be surprised. Maybe that's it. But anyway, recycle the car. And there it is. I pull the plug out. It quits. So that's the one we care about. Like there's supposed to be one there, but it's missing. One on the other side maybe. Right there. What are you doing? That's a wire. Get out of the way. Where are you? Yeah. So anyway, we'll take that screw out. And I guess there isn't one over here. And there isn't one all the way up there on top, because that would not be cool. That'd be a Ford Focus thing to do. That's the new blender actuator. This piece here doesn't come with it, so I pull it off the old one. And this one on the old one was facing straight down. And it's just a grooved, flattened circle. So it goes in only a certain way. I guess it could go that way too, but I go that way or that way. But these have to be calibrated. So I'm not exactly sure how to do that. I don't even know if it'll go in this way, but I will try. What I've heard is to calibrate these, you have to disconnect the HVAC. Sometimes you can fiddle with the controls and it'll calibrate itself, but then you pull the HVAC fuse for a bit and then it relearns, and we'll see. It's gonna be hard to get you up in there and mess with this. It's way up in there. So I'm gonna contort myself back up in here and see what I can do. But there's a little gear right there. That white gear on the actuator connects to. See what happens when we just kind of put it in there and hope it works. Well, sort of a good news, bad news thing. Good news is we did get it reinstalled and it did fix the problem. And it didn't even need any calibration. Got kind of lucky there. That was pretty cool. That's where the luck runs out, though. Hence the bad news. Somehow I messed up all the footage. So I don't have any video of reinstalling it. I have a lot of video of the floor and the ceiling. And it's a pretty gross, dark looking thing, which I think might be the inside of my ear. I'm not sure. Then I had like 10 minutes of footage in slow-mo mode, like an old Pink Panther movie, but not nearly as cool. We transitioned then to working on the instrument cluster, and I don't have any video of taking the top part of the dash off either, but I'll try to catch you up there. Pry carefully with something a little flexible. So I use these little trim hooks. I don't know where my hook one is. That's just a straight one, but anyway. Because they'll bend a little and they don't break the plastic. They'll give a little, and so these clips pop out. There's a couple connectors here and here, and then there's one here, which was kind of a pain. It hooks into the rear wiper motor, and you got to pop these two pins from the back side, and it pushes out the front of the dash panel so that you can get to this. And then there's just a little clip right here. I just picked it up with my fingernail like this and then pulled on it and it popped loose. There's also connectors for the 12-volt adapters, cigarette lighter, whatever. I don't actually know how those come off. I don't care. So if you need those off, maybe look that up. I'm just trying to get this out of the way. So I just kind of rotate it off to the side, because what I really want to get to is in here. The thing I mentioned was this radio is loose. And another one of those things where somebody didn't do something quite right. You can see a little hairline crack right there. This should be in a carriage that's mounted, a metal carriage. And then this goes in. So all these screws should do here and one over here. There's only 3 screws and it's just a plastic bracket. The only thing that's designed to do is to keep it from falling out. So it's not designed to keep it from wiggling or to fall in. There's a metal cage this is supposed to slide into. They either lost it or decided not to use it, or just gonna hack this thing together. It's a double DIN radio and it's a double DIN hole. So it was originally designed to fit in this space. Maybe took some modifications. There's a couple different versions of double DIN. Like not every GM double DIN stereo is the same as a Chrysler double DIN stereo necessarily, but usually the aftermarket companies make them pretty universal, and they make a kit that just adapts to the different cars. Now it's a little cheapy radio, and maybe they didn't have one, but like an adapter, but there still should be some sort of carriage. And I've done this before. We just modify the carriage, drill some holes, tap new holes here, but you want it solid, and this is not, and that's why it broke, because these are not supposed to be load bearing. I don't know if I'm gonna mess with it. It's in there. I hate leaving stuff that's sort of like half baked, but it is a super cheap car, and I really want to get this back on the road. And maybe if it becomes a problem down the road, this panel's pretty easy to pop off and get back to this. So maybe if she wants this replaced or something else, whatever. On the other hand, here's that stupid wire coming through behind the dash panel. So, I mean, this ridiculousness knows no bounds. This is the same one that's going through that, comes up and went behind the steering wheel. It could have just simply gone up under the dashboard where it was coming out. It went up under the dashboard, came back out, and then came up through here. And then, yeah, this is bizarre. This comes up here. It's not a power cord. At least not, I mean, it might be, but it isn't coming power from the motor or from the vehicle. It's coming from the radio. So that means there's probably a plug back here. Yeah, I can't get in there. So maybe I am taking this out, because then I can rerun this wire and not have it be jacked up like that. Anyway, for now, gauge cluster. So there's a clip up top for a wire harness. That's easier to get once you take it out, but you can't take it out from here. If you want, you can get to it, but it just doesn't, there's not a lot of clearance going up. So this is easier if you take this out first. There's a screw there. There's a screw over here. And there's usually two on the bottom. Yep, there's one there. And one, come on, there. So yeah, that's it, 4 screws. These actually come out pretty easily. They actually come apart pretty easily too. A common problem with these is the little motors that run the needles. I don't think that's the case here. It's just weird that these are the 4 gauges that don't work. These 2 work just fine. And usually what will happen with these is when the motor goes bad, they'll just drop off one side or the other, like off the gauge, off the meter, because they're just loose. They just break and fall over. So they're connected, they're just not functional, and I think it's something in the cluster. I normally I would try to test this, and maybe I can, and if I can, I'll add that here if I figure out how to test it. But I can get one for like $20 from this guy. So, and it says it works. So for $20, it's worth the time savings to just swap it and see if it fixes it. If it doesn't, then I'll dig into this one a little more. So we'll get these screws out and get this out. I said before about same screws. You could also do the smart thing and keep them separate and maybe even label them. That would be really organized. Put them in a little baggie and write on them gauge cluster, radio, dash panel. Like, that would be the smart thing to do. I'm not that smart though, so I didn't do that. So now we can get to this plug from the back. We'll drop this back down. And it should just, except we got this stupid wire here that I want to get rid of. It should just pull it out. There you go. That's all there is to it. So we'll get a new one, I think tomorrow. I'm meeting the guy tomorrow, and we'll swap that one in. And hopefully it's that easy, because tearing this apart doesn't, well, I say it doesn't interest me. That's a lie. It kind of does interest me, and I kind of want to take it apart and see if I can figure out why it's not working, because that's just kind of who I am. And I might do that, but not tonight. It's late, and I'm ready for a shower and some popcorn and some TV. Relax for the night. We'll get back at this tomorrow. Picked up a new cluster this morning. Good morning, by the way. And guy even marked it for me. It's pretty nice. Well, I mean, marked it for himself, but it's handy for me. Trailblazer. It's got 135,000 miles. So these are a digital odometer. And so normally with an older vehicle, you just like open this up and roll the odometer back to whatever matches this one. This is 109 and change. It's close enough. But I'm just going to call it good, probably. And we'll say from now on it has 135. No big deal. It's a cheap truck anyway, and that 24,000 miles or 25,000 miles isn't going to make a big difference in resale value. So just got to kind of slide this in here. And there's that plug we plug in. All right. Moment. Oh, man, I have this stupid wire. I got to fix this wire. All right. Moment of truth. You should get working gauges over here. And we do. Sweet. Okay, so we still have a airbag light. So that's probably legitimate. Maybe a sensor somewhere, so I dig into that. But all the other lights are out. Yeah, so I just gotta hook everything back up, bolt that in, reroute that stupid stereo wire. Probably gonna do that next. Alright, so I pulled those three screws out. This was just bugging me, and I had to pull that radio out and see what the heck is going on here. Okay, so it's a bit of a mess. So the one wire that was actually routed halfway decent is not connected to anything, or if it was, it come loose when I pulled the radio out, but there's plenty of cords, so I don't think that's it. It was just not plugged in. The one that is plugged in, that's zigzagging through all the holes and the panels, is this one here, and it looks like this is a camera control. It says right on there, back view control. Nice little wiring job there. That's pretty cool. So I'm at least gonna pull this cable out and reroute it, and probably reroute this one too, but leave this one back in here, tape it off, and then I'm gonna probably solder and shrink wrap that so we're not open wire. That's pretty sweet. So I got those wires pulled back through. I taped the one off that I'm not going to use, so I remember which one to plug back in. And I got to get them back up through the dashboard here. So I've run them over top of all of the brackets, the steering brackets and stuff up under here, so it's not in the way. I need to come up through here somewhere to get to the back of the stereo. There's a little gap right there that comes through. So normally you'd run a wire fish through, but my wire fish is packed away. You just need something long enough and sturdy enough, like stiff enough to get through that hole. And nice long wrench works pretty good. So if I can do this one-handed here, so you just run these through, and there's plenty of space in there, so I can get these through the box end of the wrench. And I'll throw a little piece of masking tape on them, just enough to keep them from popping loose, I hope. I'm just gonna feed this up through the hole. Something down here. Oh, yeah, that would be not ideal. There we go. Well, Might do that again, because I don't like being underneath this wiring harness. I want to be above it. Worked pretty well. I'll refish that with, not in the, wrapped around that cord. I don't have to show you twice. All right, fished back up through. This one, the non-used one, just tucked away. Cut the open end off on it so that it's not touching anything with bare wire. And to reattach these two wires here. So just connect them that way. Only reason I was gonna solder them and shrink wrap them, but in case I ever want to pull this back apart again, it'd be easier than cutting the wire and doing it again. And I don't know how long this radio is gonna be in here. Anyway, put the dash back on, just do everything in reverse. So I didn't have that on camera before, but this connector here for the rear wiper, and that just connects in that spot there. It's in, yep. And this just clips in to that spot there. Okay. Our connectors on this side. Got some connectors on this side we gotta hook up. There. And that one goes right there. I'll make sure to try to line up the end of this with that tube back there. It should go in pretty easily though. Try to get over the I should have done that first, I guess. Turn signal knob. There we go. I should just push in. We'll put these screws back in and get the bottom plate put back on, and we're done inside. Yeah, and now we're to the outside. So this happens from time to time. I always say it's usually because the factory puts in too many things that aren't necessary. And so a little weight reduction here. I always end up with parts left over. So somewhere I forgot to put a bolt back in, and it looks kind of important. It's a hardened bolt or aluminum bolt, I'm not sure. No, it's not a hardened bolt. But yeah, feels like it's supposed to go somewhere important. And now we're all back together. And I don't know where it's supposed to go. So I'm gonna hold on to it. And as I go back through the footage for editing, see if I can clue myself into where that went, where I took that out. See if it's important. If it is, I'll take this all back apart, put it back in, I'll let you know. If it's not, well, I'll just put it in the stash. And we'll say, yep, about an ounce, half an ounce maybe. A weight reduction. Well, mercifully, that's all for now. We need to do some work on the underneath suspension, steering, brakes. There's some noises and wobbles and stuff going on under there. We got to get going to make it roadworthy. That'll be the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Sorry for all the mix-up on the video. Hit the like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when the next video on this comes out. And thanks for stopping by. See you next time here at Rhino's Garage.